wakulima hawa wameweza kusaidiwa kwa njia zote wanazotaka na kuhamasishwa na kuhakikisha ya kwamba wameweza kufanya ukulima wao ili kujiendeleza na kujimudu katika maisha leo. Kwa haya, Mheshimiwa Spika, narudi kuhimiza ya kwamba ni wajibu wa serikali kuhakikisha ya kwamba wakulima wamefaidika wa sehemu zote, na hususan wa pwani, nikiamini pakubwa kwamba wakulima wa pwani wameachwa nyuma kwa kutosaidiwa na serikali katika swala zima la ukulima. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Surprisingly, many members who want to contribute are to my left. So I'm trying to look out for members from my right. But in the meantime, let's have Honorable Mishimboko. Then I will give the rest of the members. I'll look out for any member from this other direction and give them an opportunity, because not many of them are here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Honorable Speaker, I want to support this motion by Honorable Tandaza. And from the onset, I want to congratulate him and appreciate him for coming up with such an important amendment in this bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a chiote crop, or rather mrangi, or popularly known as Bixa, was introduced in the Coast region way back in 1970, Mr. Speaker. This crop is disease-free. This crop can also resist drought, and this crop grows mainly in the Coast region, in the area of Lamu, and also in Kwale at the area called Tiwi. Honorable Speaker, to note is that there is a small industry in Kwale County at Tiwi of Bixa. But it's unfortunate that it's almost collapsing because it doesn't get any support from the government, and it doesn't even get some advice in terms of value addition, and they don't even get advice in terms of marketing, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this crop has different benefits to the society, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the crop can be harvested and be used to create cosmetics products such as lipstick, Mr. Speaker. It can also be used to create cheese, margarine. It can also be used to create dyes throughout the world, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, other farmers can also use this crop as a buffer crop so that it can be assist them to distract wild animals from distracting their crops, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we know our traditional cash crops in the coast, like the coconut and the cashew nut, are scheduled crops, but they are still at third schedule, whereas they don't get the benefit like the other crops which are under first schedule. Honorable Speaker, this bill tends to ensure that Bixa is put under the first schedule, Honorable Speaker. And I know it is not difficult because the bill does not attract any additional finances to ensure that it is implemented, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if this schedule is put under first schedule, it will have several benefits, including strategic advisors in terms of value addition, financial support from the government, also ensuring that there is steady market for the crops. Therefore, farmers can be motivated to continue growing such crop. Honorable Speaker, in the ASAL areas, or rather semi-arid areas, through research, I'm sure this crop can also grow very well. And in that sense, Honorable Speaker, we can boost our economy because we can create a bigger industry, whereas we can create some opportunities in terms of jobs and also boost our economy, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, through the resolve of this Parliament, I want to plead, or rather appeal, to the Cabinet Secretary, because he has that power to declare this crop as a first scheduled crop, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have challenges in terms of employment. We have challenges in terms of our economy right now because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Honorable Speaker, if we can really utilize the finances we have through the Ministry of Agriculture and ensure that we assist farmers who grow such kind of crop, then I think we'll be ahead. And we'll also ensure the Agenda 4 of His Excellency Honorable Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, which talks about manufacturing. This will be one of the industry which can be created in the Coast region, Honorable Speaker. For all that, what I've said, I wish to support this amendment and again, once again, to congratulate Honorable Tandaza. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Ngeno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity to speak to this particular amendment. Mr. Speaker, from the first instance, I want to say that I support, and I want also to give my input, especially on matters to do with the agricultural crops, which most of the areas that we come from I use as part of their earnings, at the same time as food. Mr. Speaker, remember our country, almost 80% of our country is agricultural. Our country from time immemorial has been relying mostly on agriculture. Mr. Speaker, even the first instant after independence and even before independence, you realize, Mr. Speaker, the major issues we had with the colonial governments was the matter to do with land. And the issue of land was because majorly most of our people were agriculturists, and their way of living was through agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the reason why most of our people fought for independence, and even after independence or post-independence, we have had issues with communities, is because of land. And the reason why they fight for land, Mr. Speaker, is so that they use the land as agriculture, for agricultural use, and also for other domestic uses. Mr. Speaker, it is unfortunate that some way back we abandoned the most income earner to our country, because generally, Mr. Speaker, and as we know even up to now, the greatest GDP earner to our country is still agriculture. Although we have tourism and a few others, we still rely on agriculture, both for the domestic use and also for foreign earner. Our country lost its immediate agenda on agriculture because, Mr. Speaker, we thought maybe we could rush to other matters like industrialization and communication and all that. But, Mr. Speaker, we did that without plan. We should have first made sure that agriculture is stabilized in our country, because it is agriculture, it's through agriculture that we can move now to the next level of development. Mr. Speaker, I say so because although we have had several agendas on matters of crops, like we remember, Mr. Speaker, the ministry plus the Kenyan government opted to do irrigations on areas like in the coastal region and some parts of southern part of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, those plans never went through because instead of actually investing on irrigation and majorly on producing crops that we know are good in our countries, we actually decided to change that investment into a corruption undertaking. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to support my brother, Mheshimiwa Tandaza, for this particular amendment, so that Biza is another crop which actually do well in parts of the country, especially the semi-arid and arid areas, which can also do well in other parts of the country. Other than the coastal region, it can also do well in some parts of the northern region, and also in Narok, where we come from, Mr. Speaker. So I wish to support this amendment, and I wish to ask the government, and this one on a very serious note, that the government should go back to its original days when it used to know that agriculture was the best earner in our country. It should invest a lot of money, although we devolved agriculture, Mr. Speaker. But even when we look at how the county governments have taken the agricultural sector, Mr. Speaker, they have not put on a very serious agendas. It is still the national government which can still give serious policies to our county governments, and also the remainder part of the agricultural sector in the national government, we can still deal on very serious issues. Mr. Speaker, remember, Rift Valley has been the breadbasket of food in our country, especially food security and also on other economic sector, Mr. Speaker. But now, as we speak, Mr. Speaker, sectors which we used to rely on, especially tea sector, maize sector, and by red thumb, like from the areas where most of us come from, in Molo, we used to rely majorly on pyrethrum. But, Mr. Speaker, it has died. And it is high time, Mr. Speaker, other than even supporting this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, it is high time also we sit down as a country, and especially as a committee for agriculture in this House, to relook at all those agricultural crops which used to earn our country a lot of money. Look at the sector which, the sugarcane sector, Mr. Speaker, especially in Western and Nyanza region. You cannot go to a shop and in most of the cases you don't find sugar in our shelves. And the reason why is because people normally drink, almost 80% of Kenyans normally use sugar. So you wonder, why is it that there are no sugar on the shelves, and yet the crop itself is not even giving any earnings to the people who are planting it. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it is time we sit down as a country and look at those areas that we know were earning this country, giving our people money, putting money on the pockets of our population. Mr. Speaker, I only wish to say that it is time we sit as a country and create an agenda, especially that deals with agriculture, that will help revert the earnings that we used to have from agriculture and make our country move forward. Mr. Speaker, I support by saying that we need to relook at many other crops that we have. We look at, if we were to make even miraa a major crop in our country, it can also still earn us a lot of money. We make this macadamia a major crop, it can still earn our country a lot of money. We bring back the pyrethrum, which you, Speaker, even you yourself, you are a major farmer on pyrethrum. But now pyrethrum has lost. We no longer see it in our country. So, Mr. Speaker, we bring it back, our country will move forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Honorable Ogutu Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this noble amendment on crops. So, Speaker, I want to say that looking back to, about the development of the crop sector, I can say that the country seems to take a reverse gear. For many years, we have seen so many crops that were popular in the 60s, 70s that have now kind of disappeared. And this disappearance is not being complemented with the expansion of the new crops. I'm talking of coffee, Mr. Speaker, in many areas in this country. And a crop, if well embraced, could have converted the economy of this country that has more or less disappeared in a number of areas. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that part of the challenge is because of the technology that is supposed to be developed in these crops. So far, most regions seem to have lost completely any support that was coming from the government. I want to say that if you look at the coffee sector, for instance, there is hardly any support in the rural areas that come from the government, either in terms of the varieties of coffee, or in terms of the seedlings, or even in the terms of the chemicals that were formerly used to ensure that these crops can produce to their best. So, Speaker, I want to focus on one crop, which is tea, that has been a major source of earning in the rural areas, in most regions, especially in Western Kenya, or Kisii, or in my constituency of Machoka Borabu. The crop was popular about 10 years ago. But these days you find that the farmers are uprooting this crop. And it's unfortunate that they are uprooting the crop, not because they don't want the crop, but because the prices from this crop are so poor to sustain even the investment by the farmers. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that as we amend this particular policy, I think it's important to ask ourselves as a nation, are we really serious about food security in this nation? Are we really serious about increasing employment through agriculture, through value addition, or through farmer involvement at the primary level? And if we can really answer some of those questions, then we can then move to the second level and say, how do we improve management of this crop at the market level and even beyond the market level? Because the country has spoken about value addition for many years, but we don't seem to demonstrate that value addition. If you go to the supermarkets, the products you get there from crops are products that have been imported. and sometimes imported after they have used the Kenyan raw materials. What is happening with the value addition in this country? I want to say also that if we invested a lot in value addition, we'll have the reason to export our products to the region, but also we'll have more earnings to the farmer. Now, if you look at this sector, especially the crop sector, you wonder whether the graduates from the universities are adding any value to the production at the farm level, because they are not there. The services that they used to be provided in the 70s and the 80s are not there. Now, even when they have to be from the private sector, from individual consultants, the prices are so high, and even these consultants are not available. So I think it's important that even as we amend this particular part of the sector, we look at so many areas that are really putting this country into a very awkward situation, that we have now had as a country to rely on the neighboring countries on very simple products. And we are innovated, even when we don't need some of these products from the region, then they come to spoil the market. So we need to look at so many areas that the Speaker are critical to ensure that our farmers have more interest to invest in crop production. They have more reason to celebrate the crops that they're growing. And this is important because we know that as a country this time, we have an agenda that focuses on food security, an agenda that focuses on manufacturing, and this agenda cannot be of any significant value unless we expand the base level of crop production. So, Speaker, I want to say that I fully support this amendment, and also appeal that even as we move forward as a country, we need to know that agriculture is fundamental, and the crop production is very critical, both in the high potential and the low potential areas, not for food production, but also as a source of income and a sector that actually employs a majority of the people in the rural areas.
Okay.
I support. Thank you.
Honorable Mboni, Mwalika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and for giving me this opportunity to support this amendment. Mr. Speaker, we need to agree that agriculture is very important in this country. It contributes 30% of GDP, and 75% of Kenyans are engaged in agriculture. Most of the industries we have in this country are agricultural-based, and therefore agriculture, you can see, is very important. Mr. Speaker, in the 70s and 80s, we used to have agricultural exchange services and artificial insemination. These services ceased to exist, and they have actually affected production in agriculture. And to me, these ones are very important services which should be revived going forward. Mr. Speaker, it's high time this country move from rain-fed agriculture to irrigation. I'm saying this because where I come from in Ukambani, the two major rivers, Tana River and Athi River, they pass through those areas. But these are areas with a lot of shortage in terms of food. And that water is just going to the ocean. So if we can do agriculture, we can do irrigation in some of these areas, this country will be net exporter of food as opposed to net importer of food. Mr. Speaker, we also need to invest in storage services, because when you get a lot of food, most of this food goes to waste because we don't have storage services. And therefore, farmers will end up making a lot of losses, Mr. Speaker. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, as we support this amendment, we also need to zone this country in terms of crops, which are do well in some of these areas. I have in mind where I come from, things like dengue, a crop like dengue. Dengue does very well. But there's no support, even from government, to support dengue. And to me, this is a livelihood for people from Ukambani. So as we support this amendment, we also need to think about crops which grow from, if it's Western, for example, sugar should be supported so that these people can earn livelihood from it. If it's areas like coast, apart from Bisa, they also do mangoes that.
Member for Game.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I just want to remind my colleague whom we were together in Kenyatta University that if he chooses to use the word dengu, he should speak Kiswahili throughout, consistently. Dengu, my brother, as game people would call it, is green grams. So it's good to speak proper English if we choose to speak English. Thank you, sir.
Well, of course, what basically Honorable Elisha is doing is restating the standing orders. So really, it makes a lot of sense that we should speak in one language. Occasionally, of course, there are some terms which can be understood one way or the other. So proceed, Honorable Member for.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to tell Elisha that I was not in Kenyatta University. I was in the University of Nairobi. So, but he's my friend. I was in the University of Nairobi, not Kenyatta University.
Well, actually, yeah.
But thank you for the correction. I think
proceed. Now, Honorable Elisha, you really don't have to make statements that are factually incorrect. You can quite well know where you went yourself, but you cannot know where Honorable Mboni. What correction?
Mr. Speaker.
Did you go to Kenyatta University or the University
Mr. Speaker,
of Nairobi?
my first degree
Which one?
was Kenyatta University.
Okay.
The second master's degree was Nairobi University. The third master's degree was USIU. This must be on record. Maybe when he was doing bachelor's, is the time I was doing MBA.
That is not what is
at the University of Nairobi. Thank you.
That is not what is in contention, Honorable Elisha. What is in contention is you alleging that your colleague went to Kenyatta University when he actually can confirm that he was very close to this August House just up here in the University of Nairobi. So that is the issue now. Whatever number of degrees and others that you've had, probably you should have said you went with him to Nairobi University when you are doing your second degree. So that would have made a bit more sense. But now good to know that you have quite a number of those ones.
Thank you very much, Speaker. So what I was saying that, the country should be zoned in terms of crops, which do very well. I was saying that if you go to Western Kenya, sugar does very well. Sugarcane does very well. When it comes to Ukambani, Speaker protecting you from this, the dengu and the watermelons, they also do very well. These are crops which will be supported by the government so that people can really earn livelihood. With those few remarks, I support the amendment. Thank you very
much. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also contribute and support this amendment bill. As was said, Bixa is a drought-resistant, is also a pest-free. It's a plant that is widely grown in the coastal areas. Mr. Speaker, when I was in the Agricultural Departmental Committee, we looked at the issue of Bixa in depth, and we discovered that the benefit that this crop brings to the country and to the people of the coastal region is immense, Mr. Speaker. And that is the reason why we must move with speed to be able to pass this amendment in order for the people of Kwale, in particular, to be able to enjoy the benefit. Mr. Speaker, in Kwale there is a factory that deals with Bixa. And this factory is dilapidated because of lack of funds. Obviously, it's a private entity, but with a little support from the government, this factory can be up and running and support the local economy. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy, which is a 10-year document, which must give effect to Article 43 of the Constitution, which says that every person has a right to be free from hunger. Mr. Speaker, this document is by all standards an excellent document, and the government must move with speed to be able to implement the 9 flagship programs that are listed under ASTGS. Mr. Speaker, such amendment, therefore, would be able to find its way into that document so that it can attract the benefit. The government is actually put in place a lot of programs that would generally eliminate the hunger and also secure the country from the crisis of the perennial crisis of hunger. Mr. Speaker, the other issue we have had to deal with in the agricultural sector was the amendment of the AFA Act of 2013. This act, for some strange reasons, collapsed over 13 bills, 13 acts to form the AFA Act. Now that we have realized that this act is not working, and we are now coming with the Kenya Tea Board, Kenya Sugar Board, Sisal Board, Pyrethrum Board, to be able to make all these boards function and to actually zoom in the particular sector to be able to help the Kenyan farmer, which is most affected at this moment. Mr. Speaker, we also had the issue with the storage, which was a Warehouse Receipt System Act, which is in place. We want the government to be able to also move with speed to implement or operationalize the warehouse receipt system, which in fact seeks to help reduce the post-harvest loss. It also helps in price stability, as well as also acts as an instrument to the farmer. In the event that there is an excess supply in the country, the farmer can be able to take the commodity to warehouse receipt system, which is operated privately, to be able to get some advances. Mr. Speaker, we therefore ask the ministry to be able to fast-track the operationalization of warehouse receipt system as well as the Irrigation Act, to be able to give effect to those benefits that are contained therein. With those few remarks, I want to support this amendment. Thank you.
Honorable Wanyonyi.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, I can see my chairman of Agriculture and the former chairman of Agriculture Committee in this parliament here present. Mr. Speaker, I think we have to take this debate, and I want to thank Honorable Tangaza for coming up with this bill. Mr. Speaker, we have, as a country, we have to be serious. And I'm saying this because I see the chairman of Agriculture Committee is here and the former chairman is here, that we have to be serious as a country. And if possible, have some resolutions to be able to streamline the Ministry of Agriculture in doing some of the very important issues that actually been mentioned in the whole, everybody has mentioned here. Mr. Speaker, I think we have to be serious because agriculture is a mainstay of the economy in this country. Secondly, it's actually a foreign earner, used to be. Now it's not. Thirdly, of course, it offers employment to the opportunities of our country, to our youth and our youth. But I think as it is, Mr. Speaker, we have to be serious as a country because in the 70s, 80s, no, 70s, 80s, even and 60s, this country was doing very well. It was actually the best in the region as agricultural country. Today, you look at some of the crops, apart from what Tangas has just mentioned, there are crops that actually are dying. We have millet. I don't hear about millet. Sorghum, I don't hear about sorghum. Maize is almost gone. You go around the countryside, and if you drive around the countryside, you will see whether farmers are serious about planting the maize. We have, for example, dairy farming, which I'm afraid is also dying. You can't believe yourself as a Kenyan. You go to Kibera, you go to any other place here, you see milk coming from Uganda. When actually we used to export milk to the Middle East, we have lost our market in the Middle East. Today, there's a shortage of milk in this country. And then you wonder what has happened to the parastatals that are supposed to be supportive of this particular sector. Madam Speaker, I think we have a serious issue, and I want to ask the chairman of Agriculture here, and I'm a committee member, that we should actually have an approach, a different approach, and come up with solutions and issues that can be able to streamline the Ministry of Agriculture. What has happened to research centers? Nothing. Some of the research centers are closed down. It's actually, you look at Bukura, for example, in Western Kenya is dead. Extension services, the money, those days when I was in primary 1 and 2, I used to see Minister of Agriculture, Extension Services officers going around helping farmers to be able to improve, the methodology of planting maize and anything else, even potatoes. Today, Mr. Speaker, there's nothing. We haven't devolved the agriculture to the county. Mr. Speaker, I see nothing happening. I had a particular issue with actually extension services of AI services in my county. And I want to say here, Mr. Speaker, can you protect me, because I'm talking very seriously, and I can see a Kamukunji behind, I don't know whether it's Tangatanga or whatever.
Order. You know, you'll be protected, but...
No, but that kind of noise, when we are serious about agriculture, is not allowed in this country.
Members have no capacity of making noise, but Honorable Kositani, if you could consult, if you must, but on a lower tone, that would be fine. So then you're able to listen to Honorable Anyonyi.
Yeah, because they are not serious about agriculture. And that's why I'm saying, I think the chairman of agriculture, please, my brother, Honorable Terrain, I want you to take a whip and get the Minister of Agriculture working. Let's have the extension services, Mr. Speaker, working. Let's have the research centers that were there just colonial days revived. We have a lot of youths who don't have employment. Some of them, you go around, they've done agriculture up to even PhD level, and they're not employed. So what are we doing as a country? Today, and I want to repeat myself here, very seriously, Mr. Speaker, where you find actually Kenya importing milk from Uganda. How do we allow that? We have lost our market in Middle East on potted milk. How do we do that? And because we don't have any support services from our Minister of Agriculture officers. Last year, not least, and I think even look at the budget allocation to the Ministry of Agriculture is below the expectation, and yet is a mainstay of agriculture, mainstay of the economy in this country. What happened? You look at it and you find the budget allocation for agriculture is dwindling, and nobody cares about it. And therefore, I think as a house, we should have resolutions to be able to streamline some of these things that actually are affecting us. So Tangasa was right to come up with this particular, but it's going to be discussed here, and God knows what will happen. It will just end up as we discuss here. So let's be serious about the situation, Mr. Speaker, so that we can go to the extent of having some of the crops revived. For example, the crops that you and I had when we were growing up, like cassava. You don't hear about cassava, and it has a lot of effects, a lot of contribution to the economy. Millet, for example, sorghum, is all gone. Huh? Now we're talking about even the sisal itself, This country used to export sisal. It's now uprooted. There's nowhere we have sisal, and yet sisal was actually the main export earner. We used to say export sisal to India. Today, it's not there. You can see it around, you go around, you see plastic, whatever they're having, even ropes. You can't have a rope made of sisal. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that agriculture being what it is today, this House has the obligation to be able to drive so that it can be able to revive the agriculture sector through the research, what have you. And I want to thank once more Honorable Tangaza for having come with this. It's an eye-opener, but let's do something about this agriculture. And therefore, I think my chairman has heard about it, my former chairman is there as well. Let's move forward to be able to revive the agriculture as a sector, as a very important sector in this country. I support.
Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this bill by the Honorable Tandaza, who has actually brought to the fore the importance of this particular crop and why we should support it. Honorable Speaker, Bixa Orellana is a very important crop in this country. It has characteristics that we should be very proud of, having as an indigenous crop in this country, a crop that can grow in most of the arid areas, arid and semi-arid lands, without the need for water. A crop that is going to grow without the need for any pesticides or disease control, because it is pest resistant and disease resistant. Initial efforts in this particular area were very laudable and they were useful in the sense that they sensitized the people, of course, and the people had been given a livelihood in the 1970s. But a lot happened that led to the death of this particular initiative. Honourable Speaker, it is time to reschedule this crop and have it in the first schedule as one of the crops that should be grown in this country. The death of this particular initiative affected many people in Coast. And I believe that is part of the reason why Honorable Tandasa comes up this time to plead with us to look at how can we get this crop back to the schedule. Honorable Speaker, the world is going natural. Bixa has natural dyes, and these dyes are used to color the foods or food additives. It is used to color the cheese. It can be used to color the salad oils and so on. Being a natural product, and you know that the world is a lot more prefers organic foods, then we have a great advantage as a country to promote this particular crop for various uses. The question is, Honorable Speaker, how do we promote this particular crop? The crop should basically be scheduled, should be put in the first schedule as a crop to be grown in this country. We should initially structure out the research process that will lead to the knowledge of this particular crop, knowledge of the agroecologists that can do better, and also knowledge of the crop development attributes that need to be put in place. We should also anchor this particular crop into the legislation so that it is properly regulated and properly managed. We should therefore open up and outscale the crop to other areas. Because the crop is ASAL adaptive, then it can grow in many other areas. I am of the idea that the crop can do even in eastern Kenya, where I come from, and I believe the areas around Isiolo in my constituency can be very, very useful. What we call Rwanda sublocation in Tigania West. We should therefore develop the requisite literature and sensitize people on this particular crop so that they can take it up as a priority crop. This crop is industrial. And being industrial, it offers great possibilities for us to manufacture or to industrialize this particular crop. But you cannot industrialize a crop unless we have grown it in large quantities for the industries to be set up so that they can absorb the production itself, the product itself. We need to be able to understand how we can produce enough of this material. And to produce enough of the material, we need to be clear that we can get sufficient amounts of planting material. We need to be sure that you can get large proportions of farmers or large number of people applying this particular crop on their farm and tending the crop. And we also need to be able to collect these particular products into a collection unit. The warehouse receipting bill came up to support this particular initiative. The warehousing in this particular country is very, very important in the sense that most of our farmers are small in scale, and therefore they would need to aggregate their produce for them to be able to properly access the market. This crop is important not only for industrialization and job creation, it is also important for creating wealth for our people and also creating wealth for the investors. The investors have a great opportunity to create wealth in terms of investing in processing this particular crop. So now, Speaker, my proposal is that we structure out this particular crop, map out the mixer suitable areas of the country, sensitize the farmers and register them accordingly so that we know who is supposed to produce the crop. And then we should also go further to produce this particular crop and co-locate the production with industries. We should support the production through research and development and also support through extension. Then we should organize the entire value chain so that we know who are the producers, who are the off-takers, how are the off-takers are organized, and how are they supposed to be meeting the demands of the market. We should sensitize the people accordingly to invest in this particular crop. We should have the crop properly anchored into its own board, not necessarily to be part of the crops that are in AFA, or properly anchor it along what we call the industrial crops and the medicinal oils. We should enable the growth and development of the particular crop, Honourable Speaker, and generally support those farmers to be able to produce and sell to the industry. If the industry is not properly organized, then we will not be able to enable these farmers to gain from the crop itself. I'm coming to the support to agriculture in view of organizing the industry. Agriculture in this country is not really in the top priority when it comes to funding. The resource allocation to agriculture, if you look at 2019-2020 budget and the 2018-2019, you realize agriculture is above number 10. I think it's not in the first top 10. If it's not in top 10, then we are not very serious as a country. Because if you look at what happened during COVID, it is only agriculture which grew at 6.4% without any support from anyone. Other industries like health, the health sector grew because most of the money was directed to health in order to be able to contain the COVID. So as a country, we need to position ourselves properly and realize that we have an advantage with a crop here that can grow without requiring pesticides and insecticides. A crop that can do in most of the ASAL areas, and realizing that the country is 75 to 80% ASAL. If we have most of the land, and this crop is suitable to this land, and we need to employ our people, therefore we can set up industries. The market is immeasurable. We cannot satisfy the market. So why don't you take advantage of this? Honourable Speaker, I would like to urge that this House supports this motion, and this motion grows into a legislation that basically is going to look at how do we position this particular crop as one of the major crops that can help us move out of poverty and also create wealth for the people of this country. Honourable Speaker, I support.
Honourable Sotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to also support this very important amendment by Honourable Tandaza to amend the Crops Act 2019. Mr. Speaker, as it has been said by many other members, this is a very, very important crop because of the high economic potential that this crop brings. The crop can be used in many, many other things like flooring materials, cosmetics, shoe polish, ink, silk, and medicinal, and even food coloring. So it is a crop which has high economic potential. But Mr. Speaker, it's very surprising that since this crop was being used for economic purposes from 70s. The Ministry of Agriculture has never thought to include this crop in the schedule of crops in the Crop Act. That demonstrates the level of laxity in the Ministry of Agriculture. And there are other crops across the country which ideally should be included in the list, and they are not included in the list. So I think something has to be done about this. It means the research arm of the Ministry of Agriculture or the organs within the ministry that is supposed to undertake research are not doing their work. I can give an example like bamboo tree. It's doing so well, like in Vihiga County where I come from. It is doing so well, and it can be used for so many other things, but it is not listed in the Crop Act. Mr. Speaker, I think something has to be done. And I'm happy the chairperson of the Agriculture Committee is here. I think this is an issue that the committee should follow up to basically list down the crops which have a high economic value in different regions and find ways of including it in the schedule of crops. You do not have to wait for a member like Mheshimiwa Tandaza to bring a motion so that a crop is included in the list. This is something that should be done automatically through research. But most importantly, Mr. Speaker, that the gazettement of this crop will trigger other processes which are very crucial and which will lead into benefits to the farmers of Kwale and Coast Region. It will trigger the marketing processes, it will trigger the research processes, the distribution, transportation, promotion, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, even value addition. We want the value addition to be done right here in Kenya before they are exported. And another important thing, Mr. Speaker, this crop does well in warm, humid areas with a temperature of about 32 to 38 degrees. And we know many of our ASAL areas are some of the areas which can benefit from this crop. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a very important amendment, and I want to encourage the Committee of Agriculture to continually look for such kind of crop. And one crop that I really vouch for is the bamboo tree, which has so many benefits, but is not classified as a crop. I think that would be one of the crops that I would urge the committee to consider pushing through the ministry to include. Mr. Speaker, this crop is going to be listed under Part 2 of that schedule, which basically are crops.
Order. What is it, Honorable Ali Haji? What is out of order?
Honorable Speaker, I think as we contribute to a very important amendment such as this, the member must be factual. Honorable Speaker, I'm aware that bamboo is a scheduled crop. Members from this region petitioned bamboo to be in a scheduled crop, and as we speak, Honorable Speaker, bamboo is a scheduled crop. So member should be factual when he is giving his statement. Thank you.
Well, it didn't look like a point of order. It looked like information, but nevertheless, Honorable Sots must be now well informed.
Mr. Speaker, you know, I was saying that because I was looking at the original act, the Crops Act.
Now you know.
And I could not see it listed, but maybe it was put in a gazette notice, which I'm not aware.
Proceed.
But thank you for that information. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this crop is going to be put under Part 2, which is basically crops with the breeding program. And that's very, very significant because it's going to encourage research, development, and most importantly, certification of new variety of this crop. So I think this will be a great step for the people of Kwale and the Coast Region. And for that matter, I want to encourage the people of Kwale to continuously support my colleague here, Honorable Tandaza, because of the huge step he has taken in trying to uplift the economies of the people of Kwale. For those few remarks, I support.
Not Honorable Kadhambi or member for Sirisia first, but yes, a member for Sirisia. You are lucky because I was to give to Commissioner Shaban, but I'm sure she will get a chance. You seem to be very fast at, and you know, member for Sirisia, you should be gracious enough to defer to the Commissioner. But anyway, please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry for the Honorable Shaban, because he's our boss, he's our vice chair of the commission. Sorry. But to talk on this bill, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Tandaza for bringing up this motion. Mr. Speaker, our country really depends on agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of the economy of this country, Mr. Speaker. And to me, Mr. Speaker, even to devolve agriculture to counties has really created many problems to the farmers of this country, Mr. Speaker. Like tea, Mr. Speaker, tea sector is really suffering as we speak. It's going to the same like sugarcane farmers, Mr. Speaker. The president of this country, Mr. Speaker, appoints ministries or ministers to support him to run this country, Mr. Speaker. But sometimes the ministers who are appointed or the ministry officers fail to perform to bring this country down, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these days we don't have extension officers to check on farmers in the field as it used to be before, like during President Jomo Kenyatta's time and President Moi's time. When we were children, we used to see extension officers visiting farmers to know the problem of the farmer so that they improve on production, Mr. Speaker. But as we speak, the extension officers are not there. Means we are performing very poorly in agriculture, Mr. Speaker, due to lack of support. We are importing unnecessary things that are supposed to be produced by our farmers in this country, Mr. Speaker, like eggs. We are importing eggs from neighboring countries like Uganda. We are importing milk from neighboring countries like Uganda. Instead of us promoting the farmers like other countries do to support their farmers, instead to support the country, Mr. Speaker. Coffee, we are doing very badly just because of middlemen that are in the middle trying to run this country down, trying to steal from the farmer. Like as we speak, Mr. Speaker, maize sector, government has not brought in subsidized fertilizer to the farmers. Let me speak to farmers of maize from Rift Valley, from Bungoma, where we farm maize, and we always get fertilizer, farmers get fertilizer at a reasonable price. But now the fertilizer's price has gone up, 3,300 shillings per bag of 50 kilos instead of 1,800. that the government bring to the farmers, Mr. Speaker. So this will bring our people back for us to import maize from outside the country, and yet farmers can sustain this country with food. So, Mr. Speaker, the ministers that are appointed, especially the Minister of Agriculture, should support this government to make sure that everything that is supposed, like this, what Honorable Tandasa has brought, this crop, to support it. Because we are, even us, we are, as members of parliament, Mr. Speaker, we are earning salary because of, from the farmers. The money that we earn, we don't produce money to pay ourselves for our salaries. Mr. Speaker, we just earn from the common mwananchi who is a farmer out there. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm urging members of parliament to deeply come out and support the agricultural sector of this country, Mr. Speaker, and especially this project that Honorable Tandasa has brought. We are to support it so that we can get more money to support this country, Mr. Speaker. I think for those few remarks, I want to thank Honorable Tandasa for bringing this, and as a house, we need to support it. And we need to support the government fully so that this country can stand in each and everything, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Let's have Honorable Katana Kahindi.
Asante Bwana Spika. Kwanza nataka kumpongeza mjumbe wa Matuga Kasim Tandaza kwa kuleta mabadiliko katika mswada huu. Bwana Spika, wakati umefika sasa wa Wizara ya Kilimo kufanya utafiti kwa kila mmea katika majimbo yetu ili wajue kwamba ni mti gani ambao ama mmea gani unaweza kutumika kuzalisha na kuleta mapato katika eneo haya na nchi kwa jumla. Bwana Spika, kwa muda mrefu mimea kama kahawa, chai, korosho, mnazi ilikuwa ikisifika kwa mazao yake, lakini kwa sasa mimea hii imefifia, na taasisi nazo ambazo zilikuwa zinafanya utafiti wa mimea hii pia nazo zimefifia. Bwana Spika, tunajua kwamba kilimo ndio uti wa mgongo wa nchi hii. Serikali inatakana kuwekeza ama kuweka bajeti kubwa kwa Wizara ya Kilimo ili utafiti ufanywe ya kuweza kusaidia wakulima wa mimea hii. Kule Pwani tumekuwa na mmea wa mnazi, tumekuwa na mkorosho na biksa. Mimea hii imekuwa ikileta mapato, lakini tangu kiwanda cha mkorosho kifungwe na biksa, hali ya uchumi ya jimbo la Pwani imerudi nyuma. Ni jambo la aibu kuwa kwa sasa tunaagiza tui la nazi kutoka nchi ya Malaysia, na ili hali Pwani tuna mmea huu ambao unaweza kutumika kuleta mazao. Vile vile mimea hii mitatu kule Pwani, kama serikali inaweza kufanya utafiti na kuwekeza, tunaweza kutoa suluhu la kutokuwa na ajira katika jimbo hilo na Kenya nzima. Kwa muda mrefu, Bwana Spika, ikifika wakati wa uchaguzi, watu wengi huja Pwani na kuhadaa wapwani kwamba watawekeza katika sehemu ya mnazi kufufua kiwanda cha mkorosho na kufufua Biksa. Lakini baada ya uchaguzi ukienda, mimea hii bado haijatambulika tena. Kwa hivyo nataka kuunga mkono mabadiliko ya mswada huu. Vile vile Biksa, mkorosho na mnazi iletwe katika ibara ya kwanza ya mimea ambayo inaweza kutumika na kuzalisha na kuleta mapato katika taifa letu. Bwana Spika, mnazi peke yake unaweza kuajiri zaidi ya watu 10,000. Lakini kwa muda mrefu watu wamekuwa wakiongea kuhusu bidhaa moja ya mnazi ambao ni pombe peke yake. Na mnazi una zaidi ya bidhaa 11. Unaweza kutumika mwanzo, lile fuvu la nazi tumeona unaweza kutumia kutengeneza vifungo. Kwa hivyo kama serikali ya kitaifa na serikali za kaunti, kwa sababu kilimo imegatuliwa, tunaweza kuleta mitambo, tunaweza kuajiri vijana wengi waweze kujikimu kimaisha kuliko kuwapatia maslasha wakafyeke na kutoa kusafisha mitaro ya maji machafu. Zile pesa ambazo zinatumika kule zinaweza kutumika kuwekeza kwa kilimo. Bwana Spika, utakumbuka kwamba mti wa mnazi katika nchi ya Malaysia umefanya nchi hiyo kukua kwa kiuchumi, lakini serikali haijakuwa na nafasi au haijafanya utafiti muhimu wa kuhakikisha kwamba miti hii inaweza kutuletea pato, hasa wakati huu wa ugonjwa wa COVID. Ni upande wa kilimo peke yake ambao umeweza kusaidia wananchi kujikimu kimaisha. Kwa hivyo naunga mkono Biksa kuletwa katika ibara ya kwanza ya mimea, na vile vile pia mnazi na korosho pia iweze kuwekwa katika ibara ya kwanza, ili tupate pesa za kufanyia utafiti na pia kufanyia masoko katika nchi na nchi za geni. Kwa hivyo ninaunga mkono huu, Bwana Spika. Asante sana, na naunga mkono kwa mabadiliko ya mswada huu. Asante.
Commissioner Shaban.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia fursa hii. Mimi pia nijiunge na wenzangu kumpongeza ndugu yetu Mheshimiwa Tandaza, mbunge wa Matuga, kwa kuleta mswada huu ambao unarekebisha sheria za mimea hapa nchini. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza ningependa kutoa risala zangu za rambirambi kutoka kwangu pamoja na jamii yangu yote kwa ujumla, Taveta nzima, eneo bunge la Taveta na Taita Taveta kwa ujumla, kwa vile bunge hili la 12 tumepata kipigo mno. Tumepoteza wabunge wengi, Mheshimiwa Spika, na tunawaombea. Tunajua wametutangulia mbele ya haki, na kule wanakokwenda Mwenyezi Mungu awaweke roho zao pahali pema peponi. Mheshimiwa Spika, mti huu mrangi ama mbiksa kama vile unavyoitwa kule pwani ni mti ambao ni wa muhimu sana, na hizi mbegu zake ni za muhimu sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, si bure tu Mheshimiwa Tandaza amelivalia njuga jambo hili, kwa sababu eneo lake haswa kule Kwale ndio kiwanda cha kuhakikisha kuwa rangi hii mmea huu wa mbiksa unaweza kupatia watu faida. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni sawa tu kuwa mti huu mrangi ama matunda haya ya mbiksa na mbegu zake ziweze kuorodheshwa kwenye mimea mingine ya muhimu hapa nchini. Mheshimiwa Spika, si jambo la kutosha tu kuorodhesha. orodha hizi zikitoka ni kuwa mimea hii lazima ipatiwe kipaumbele, na haswa serikali ya kitaifa na serikali ya ugatuzi, serikali zetu za ugatuzi ziangalie kuwa mimea hii inapatiwa umuhimu, haswa kwenye kuongeza na kuwasaidia wakulima waweze kupata mbegu zinazofaa na kuwafunza ukulima wa kisasa. Manake kule mashinani zaidi sana wakulima wengine wanalima tu kiholela holela kwa sababu hawapatiwi mwelekeo kwenye njia za kulima za kisasa ili waweze kupata haki yao kwenye jasho lao katika ukulima. Mheshimiwa Spika, maeneo mengi yana vyakula ama ina mimea tofauti tofauti ambayo ina faida hapa nchini. Tukitaja kuwa kuna mikorosho, kuna nazi, kuna ndizi kutoka maeneo yetu kule upande wa Taveta na maeneo mengi hapa nchini, vile vile mihogo, viazi vitamu, Mheshimiwa, na hata vile ilivyotajwa kuwa dengu ambayo inapandwa hapa nchini na vitu vingine vingi sana ikiwemo kahawa pamoja na chai. Mheshimiwa Spika, si siri kuwa vitu vyote vinavyopandwa hapa nchini ni vitu vya umuhimu na vinatumika ulimwengu mzima, isipokuwa wakulima wasipopatiwa ujuzi wa kuhakikisha kuwa wameweza kulima kwa njia za kisasa na kuhakikisha kuwa mavuno yao yatakuwa yale ambayo yako ya juu, yanatoa vyakula vile ama ukulima unaotoa mazao yale ambayo yanahakikishwa yako na grade zile za juu. Mheshimiwa Spika, inakuwa shida kwa mkulima kupata haki yake na jasho lake alilolitoa kuweza kupata haki yake kupitia kwa njia hiyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukweli ni kwamba hapa nchini mambo na kilimo ni mambo ambayo ndio ya muhimu zaidi, ndio yamewezesha wazazi kujiendeleza mbele, kusomesha watoto na kuweza kubadilisha masuala ya uchumi hapa nchini. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia hivi majuzi kuna vitu ambavyo vinaweza kukaa sana na kuna vile ambavyo ni mimea ambayo mazao yake hayawezi kukaa kwa muda mrefu. Kwa mfano, nataka kuzungumzia swala la ndizi ambazo zinatoka kule kwenye maeneo yetu. Utakuta kuwa ni kitu ambacho hakikai kwa muda mrefu katika moja ya mimea ile ambayo tunajua itakuwa na matatizo. Tunajua kuwa wenye kupanda mahindi yana muda yanaweza kukaa, lakini juu ya hapo pia mahindi ni lazima yapatiwe bei ambayo inayostahili, na vile vile serikali yetu iweze kuhakikisha kuwa wafanyikazi wenye taaluma hizo za kilimo waweze kuwasaidia wakulima waweze kupata haki yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukienda nchi za nje utakuta kuwa kahawa na hata chai inayotumika kule nzuri zaidi ni ile ya kutoka Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kahawa yetu saa nyingine wanaichanganya na zingine, lakini zaidi sana kahawa ya Kenya inasifika kila mahali. Ukienda Amerika utakuta ndio inasifika, ukienda kila mahali duniani utakuta inasifika. Vile vile chai yetu wameichukua, wameichanganya na chai zingine ambazo hazina utamu kama hii ya Kenya. Lakini isitoshe ni kuwa chai yetu pia ulimwengu mzima inajulikana. Lakini swali ni kuwa, je, wakulima wetu wanapata haki yao? Hilo ndio swali kubwa ambalo lazima serikali yetu tusaidie hapo, ili wakulima wetu waweze kupata haki yao na sio wale ambao wanaofanya biashara kwa mimea hii na mavuno haya ya hawa wakulima ndio wanafaidika peke yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, mbiksa ama mrangi inaonekana wazi kuwa ni mbegu ambazo zinazotumika kutengeneza rangi, hata inatumika kwenye hata chakula, vitu tofauti tofauti ambavyo binadamu anaweza kutumia na hata vitu vya urembo vya kina mama. Lakini juu ya hapo kitu ambacho kinaweza kutumika kwenye chakula ni kitu ambacho serikali ingekipatia nguvu sana, ili kiwanda kile kiweze kujengwa upya, ili wakulima wa maeneo hayo na hata wakulima wengine waweze kuhimizwa kuweza kulima na kuvuna mbiksa ama mrangi, mbegu za mrangi. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhahiri ya kuwa Kenya tumezoea kufanya ukulima wa kutegemea mvua, na mvua ikichelewa tu kidogo basi kumeharibikiwa kote. Serikali kuu imekuwa ikika mkazo wa kuhakikisha kuwa wamejenga madimbwi ya maji kila mahali, lakini naona kama ambaye ugawaji wa hayo madimbwi hauendi vile inavyotakikana. Hivyo basi kuna umuhimu wa serikali kuhakikisha kuwa madimbwi hayo ya maji kama yatatengenezwa, yawe yakitengenezwa kila maeneo, ili wakulima wote hata wenye kutoka maeneo makame waweze pia kupata maji, kwa sababu maji, mvua ikinyesha basi tunapata mafuriko, inaharibu kila kitu, inaua watu, inaua mifugo, inaua mimea, na wakati kuwa kama maji haya yakitumika vizuri yangeweza kutuletea faida wakati wa ukame. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka sana kumalizia kwa kumuunga mkono na kumpongeza kaka yangu Tandaza kwa kuleta mswada huu ambao utarekebisha orodha ya mimea ambayo imetajwa kwenye sheria za mimea hapa nchini. Naunga mkono.
What is out of order, Honorable Duale?
Mr. Speaker, I'm standing on Standing Order 95, and we have been debating this bill for a number of hours, and it's a lot of repetition. Will I be in order that we move to the next important constitutional bill also? Because Mr. Speaker, can you tell the member for the Grati, we are not in Kawangware market. We are in the house. So I'm talking to the Speaker. You can't heckle me. Okay, my very good friend, I'm only asking what is provided in the standing order. Will I be in order to call the mover to reply so that we go to the next bill? Because we can't discuss one bill whole Thursday because of the time factor and the COVID regulations. And I have been listening to members that we are more of repetitive. If that is to be in order, Mr. Speaker, and you put that to the House.
Very well. You know, Honorable Duale, you are in order to ask. But asking, I shall have to confirm from the members who are here whether that is their mood, actually. Honorable members, I will put the question that the mover now be called to reply. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. Clearly, the nays have it. I guess Honorable Duale is a balance because the members actually, within the time the members remaining could maybe moderate and we have it fast-tracked in a sense so that we move to the next. But I also can tell the members from Coast particularly have a keen interest on this, and they have been allowed for some time. Even the other members as well, because they are also Kenyans. So members from Coast and the other members, you will get a chance certainly. But let's start with Honorable Guna.
Thank you, Speaker, for the chance given to me. Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief because I understand so many members want to contribute to this motion. Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank Honorable Tagasa for bringing up this bill. And it has come to my attention that majority of the Kenyans actually don't know what is Biksa crop. Personally, I have been seeing it in many places in Coast, especially Kilifi, but I've never actually known the economic importance of this crop, Mr. Speaker. Recalling the President's Big Four agenda, one of them was food production and another one was manufacturing. Mr. Speaker, if you look at this crop, the Biksa crop, it is complementing the two industries of food production and also the manufacturing. We are talking of a crop that is drought resistant. And automatically, Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me in the advent of global warming. Actually, rains have become very unpredictable. And we need actually to